Thank you so much. Good afternoon. Today is August 9th, 2021, and I call this Finance and Government Operations Committee of the City Council to order. Councillor Harris is excused from today's meeting, and Councillor Benton will be joining us in his seat. All other committee members are present today via Zoom. This is a remote or online meeting where all participants will be on a video or audio conference. We appreciate your patience as FGO meetings are conducted this way. Written comments were received for today's meeting and were provided to the members of the committee. Members of the public will be able to address the committee if they've signed up for live public comment per the rules published on the agenda and our website on Friday. Speakers will be moved into the meeting room 2 at a time. They will remain muted with their camera off until they are called upon to speak, at which point they can turn on their camera, unmute themselves, and will have 1.5 minutes to provide comments to the committee. After that, they will again be muted and return to be an attendee of the Zoom webinar. Members of the public, city staff, and the media have the ability to view this meeting live through YouTube and Zoom webinar. The live stream can be accessed from most smartphones, tablets, or computers. And for those watching on the live stream, thank you for joining us. We will go ahead and start with public comment. And Mr. Moya, we do have at least one, correct?
Yes, Madam Chair, that's correct.
Thank you. So hello to those joining us to provide public comment. If you're watching the YouTube live feed for this meeting, please mute or turn it off at this time. Here are the public comment ground rules. Comments are to be addressed to the committee members only. Each participant has 1.5 minutes to present. Any disruptive conduct will result in removal from the Zoom meeting room. There will be a 1.5 minute time limit, and the timer will start once you begin speaking. Then the Zoom moderator, Mr. Moya, will let you know when your time is up. Mr. Moya, will you please call the name of the first speaker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Doreen McKnight, you're signed up for a public comment. I see you turned your video on, you're unmuted. Your 1.5 minutes will begin when you start speaking.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am, please proceed.
Thank you. Chair Bassan and committee members, good afternoon. I'm here speaking on behalf of the Wells Park Neighborhood Association in reference to EC-21-375, which I believe is first on the committee's agenda. Wells Park Neighborhood Association has been attempting to work with the city on this resolution, which this report addresses since August of 2018, when the resolution was passed by the city council. It is now August 2021. The first time the city drafted this report was in fall of 2019. The intent of the report is as unclear then as it is now, including the fact that it has no community input. The city sought community input, it was our understanding, from the Wells Park Neighborhood Association and a couple of other neighbors. We provided substantial feedback and a draft report to bring up this report to current speed and include next steps. None of that input was included in this report. It also includes various misleading and erroneous statements detailed in my written public comments to this committee. And because this report is an inaccurate reflection of what has happened in reference to the city meeting its obligations under R1859, we request that this committee not accept this report in its current format. We believe the city has a lot to do to meet its obligations under R1859 still, not the least of which is to actually engage in community input gathering as required by R1859. And I'm also available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McKnight. Madam Chair, that will conclude public comments.
Thank you, Ms. McKnight, and thank you, Mr. Moya.
Madam Chair, if I just could briefly.
Yes, Councilor.
Sorry, I'm slowing the draw here with my virtual hand. Ms. McKnight, the last substantive meeting that I recall, or that I was aware of and was able to attend anyway, was, I believe, in November, right before the start of the pandemic. That would have been November of 2019, as I'm sure you were there. That seemed to be substantive with many departments represented, et cetera. Have there been any meetings at least resembling that since then?
The mayor's office, thank you, Councilor Benton, Chair Bassan. The mayor's office in March of 2020, after numerous complaints by the neighborhood association, appointed a liaison from the mayor's office to facilitate, I guess, organizing city departments and responding to this resolution. And this liaison organized Zoom meetings throughout 2020 with myself and one other neighbor, with various department heads. And at, I would say, almost every single one of those meetings, we did reiterate the fact that those meetings should not comply with the community engagement process as outlined in R1859, because it was just with myself and one other neighbor. But yes, there were some meetings, which is another concern about this report, because the details of those meetings are not reflected in this report that's being presented by the city today.
Madam
Matt.
Chair, this is Isaac in the budget conference room. We have been working quite a bit. What we do have is Matt Whalen from Solid Waste. We have trying to see everybody who we have up here. I apologize. I can't see him up here. We have Matt Whalen. We have Carol Pierce is on because she worked on this. And we also have, I think it's DC Garcia, who's there in the APD conference room. But they were all part of the process, and they actually worked with Aaron Engelbrecht on this particular issue to get it moving, because we know that it kind of got stalled. So if you'd like to hear from them, we can hear from them so that they can discuss what is going on whenever the piece of legislation come up, when EC 21-375 comes up.
Thank you. I'm going to defer to Councilor Benton. Do you want to hear from any of these others, or?
I think it'd be fine to hear from them when we hear the bill. I guess we're segueing into that anyway.
Right. Okay. So that being said, we are going to move on to agenda item A, which is EC 375, report on resolution R 1859, Wells Park neighborhood. I make a motion for receipt be noted. And I see Councilor Senna has offered a second. So now we can move on to discussion. Councilor Benton, I'm going to go ahead and let you kind of run with this for now, with whom you would like to speak with in these departments.
Sure. And I guess, I don't know if Mr. Padilla or anyone else from the administration wants to summarize prior, but I think is Ms. Engelbrecht still with the administration? Is she on the call?
She does still work, works with us, but she's not on the call right now. She was the one that did shepherd it through, though.
Okay. Yeah, I will just say, and by the way, I wasn't expecting to be sitting as a committee member, but the chair, since there was a vacancy, graciously invited me to. I don't really know where to begin. It's been 3 years since we passed the legislation. Early on, my office of one person, Diane Dolan, did some coordination, kind of legwork, trying to work with some different departments. But and I know also, I'll just go ahead and put this out there. If I'm not mistaken, there was $4 million identified in the capital budget to be voted upon this year. It was either that or a cleanup, but I believe it was the capital budget for 22, where $4 million there was a line item for $4 million for Wells Park that was not specifically defined, but that I was told had to do with this resolution. Regardless, the pace of activity has been excruciating for everyone, and things have gotten worse because they've gotten worse anyway with regard to some of the challenges of homeless and our unsheltered neighbors in that area. I guess I would maybe ask to speak, go ahead and hear, Madam Chair, from the departments who would like to respond to their activity with regard to the original resolution and its provisions in R 1859. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Benton. So Director Pierce, I see you on right now. Do you want to start?
Yes, thank you, Chairwoman Bassan and Councilor Benton. And thank you to Doreen McKnight's comments earlier. Yes, this has been quite a long journey on this legislation. I think the meetings I participated in began early on in my time here at the city. And I think initially it seemed like family and community was one of the key departments, but again, many other departments were needed to really address many aspects of this resolution. And therefore solid waste, DMD, parks, and many other departments were involved. I think what this report does, and we're grateful for Erin Engelbrecht, she would normally, I think, could have been invited. She is off on annual leave this week. She's been a really great representative, I think, working with Ms. McKnight and other neighborhood representatives to make sure that their voices were heard and some of the concerns. From a family and community perspective, what it represents is really over the last couple of years, what we've done to try to make changes, and often with other departments structurally at Coronado by adding fences. The dog park is discussed on what was changed there, what we were doing with a gate at Coronado, many things that have been implemented over the last few years. I guess I would say there's a living, breathing element to this report, although I think, the legislation was a point in time and this is the update. But even as of recently as today, we're making changes specifically at the park at Wells Park Community Center because of important changes needed there for our youth programming and because of encampments there. And so lots of work continues to carry on, but there's no question that the Wells Park neighborhood is impacted by our unhoused neighbors, and there continues to be work done.
Thank you, Director. I also see someone in APD, and then Director Montoya as well. Director Montoya, I guess, and then APD will go to you.
Madam Chair and committee members, let me just give you a quick update on what DMD has done at Wells Park and on an ongoing process that will carry out for another year and a half or two. And then Councilor Benton is absolutely correct. There's $4 million in the 2021 GO program for the Walker property improvements. That is a project that is being carried out jointly with Parks, Family and Community Services, and I believe at this point the possibility of a nonprofit. But two projects at Wells Park that DMD is complete, one that's completed and one that's underway. We just completed installing right at 45 additional streetlights within that neighborhood from the railroad track to about 4th Street Mountain going towards I-40. Dalkia was our consultant on that. They did the installation. So that phase of the project has been completed. I believe we satisfied the conditions that were outlined in the original resolution. For the ADA phase, I'm just going to read real quick, and I think Councilor Benton is familiar with this, but WSP is the consultant for this project. Phase 1, is 100% complete. If you drive down 4th Street now, you'll see that the sidewalk, curb and gutter improvements have started on that project. Phase 2 is at 90%. Phase 3, we think we will be able to complete with the funding that we have in place. And then phase 4, so we're probably looking at phase 4 taking place somewhere late of 2022. And again, these are all sidewalk, curb, gutter improvements to that neighborhood. In addition to that, we're spending right at $4 million is what was appropriated by the quarter cent bond program. Those are the funds that we're using for Wells Park. Excuse me. And we have had a few conversations with Doreen and others in the neighborhood. And hopefully this has been able to at least address their concerns, and hopefully DMD was able to provide part of the services at 100% and then ongoing at another 90% or so through the end of next year. I stand for any questions on that, but that's been our involvement as far as this project is concerned.
Thank you, Director. Counselor Benton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Director Montoya, the lighting so the lighting, as far as you're concerned, I think you said you satisfied the lighting issues. Those were geographically limited, though, to that area from 4th Street to eastward, right?
Madam Chair, Councilor Benton, that is absolutely correct. When we did the analysis, what we had done was the company went out and measured lighting and how that light is spread throughout 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th streets, and then again, Mountain going northbound. So you're absolutely correct. They were identified for locations where we saw some dark spots within the neighborhood.
And then, the issue of alleys and trying to restrict access to alleys where it's feasible. Obviously, that involves private property owners as well. But in the report, it really just describes the existing program for closing an alley, which is very rigorous on from the standpoint of the residents who might want to do that. Very rigorous. I've only been involved in one, I believe, since I've been on the council, and that one had to be done over a couple times before they finally pulled it off. It's very, very difficult. And my understanding when we first started talking to DMD about this was that we would try to find a different approach to this unique situation in Wells Park, where we do have a lot of folks camping, living in the alleys, using the alleys as bathrooms and so forth, more than the average alley, let's put it that way. And, it just seemed like every time we talked about that, there was some legal reason. And I know our friends in the city attorney's office may want to weigh in on this, but I mean, I think at least the explanation of why it could not be done in a different way than the standard way, I think would be really useful. Also, I'll just interject here, since we're talking about sidewalks and so forth, is that in alleys, is that many people in the neighborhood, and the neighborhood goes to a much greater area than this limited area where the work's been done so far. We're expecting that there would also be work done on in those streets, in those areas as well, to the west of 4th. I realize that there hasn't been enough funding put forward to do that, but that's sort of what we were hoping to see when we made this a priority of the cities in the original resolution. Anyway, I don't know if you have any response to that, Director Montoya, but from anyone's point, I think 3 years is a long time to be barely just getting going.
Madam Chair, Councilor Benton, I can address that, and I see that Director Whalen is on the call as well. I believe that when we first looked at that one alley right off of Summer, that was going to be an experiment alley, and I guess I would defer to Director Whalen, to see if he can respond to that, because that task was actually assigned to that department.
Council Chair and Chair Councilor Benton. Yeah, that alley, we have to have all the permission from all of the businesses, and in order to close an alley, it has to be enclosed within the businesses. It does no good to fence off the ends if there's access through the alley. And at one point, there was a fence that had been taken down so you could access it through the alley. So we've continued to clean those alleys. We've continued to address all the issues in that neighborhood. We've also put a couple of portable restrooms in that area to help with them using the alleys. But as far as actually putting the gates, we're still going through the process and finding out legally we need to get permission from each and every business in order to close off that alley, as well as we need to make sure that APD can still access it. From a solid waste standpoint, it's easy for us to access it if we put the gate and then we access it, but we have to make sure that all other city departments, as well as the businesses in that area, need to have access to it. And now that the fence has been repaired, that was allowing access from the middle of the alley, we can move forward with that.
Thank you, Director Whalen. Appreciate that. Yeah, so I think I was just, rereading the mail that came in from the neighborhood, and, nobody's saying that nothing's been done. But one thing in particular kind of stands out, which is the administration's repeated claims that what's being done on the Walker property next to Wells Park Community Center and the work that was involved in purchasing that and the planning work that's now underway, that is somehow related to the city's meeting its obligations under the resolution. And the writers of those letters made it clear already, but I want to make it clear that I worked with the neighborhood who contributed their own money towards the purchase of that property, with the county commissioner and with the state legislature to get that purchase fully funded. And we do appreciate, I think I'll speak on behalf of the neighbors, that we do appreciate that the city consummated that deal and got it done, and the city now owns that property for a fair purchase price. But I personally feel like I was either misled or I just did not understand that when it said 4 million for Wells Park, that was for a parks project as opposed to these commitments that were made under the resolution. But I'll stop there, and if there are any other departments who would like to weigh in, and perhaps Mr. Padilla as well.
I see Deputy Chief Brown. Did you have something to add to this discussion?
Absolutely, Madam Chair and members of City Council, thank you. So for starting on August 8th, starting at 7:30 in the morning, there'll be daily park checks. They also working with Parks and Rec. We got signs erected that say park use limited to community center programs Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 6 p.m. We've also adjusted the hours of our bike officers to 5:30 in the morning, so they can take appropriate action before any programs get started in the morning. And then also APD's graveyard officers will be administering park checks from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. to making sure there's no wrecks or tents and structures being erected in the park. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Padilla, did you have anything further to add, or is there somebody I might have missed?
It's supposed to be, Dave Simon's supposed to be in, but I'm not seeing him in the meeting. So I've just texted him and see if he's going to come on. But I will say we have been working, the different departments that are involved have been working for quite a time on the investments in Wells Park. And we're going to continue to do that, like Director Pierce had said. And one of the projects was purchasing the Walker property. That's also to help with the neighborhood, not necessarily part of the resolution, but that's some additional stuff that's happening in the neighborhood that we want to continue to do, and we want to help the neighborhood. But yeah, this has been a long process. We've been working hard on it. I know it got off to a slow start, but when Aaron Engelbrecht kind of took control of it and started to move forward, we were able to see a lot of this stuff get in. But if you would like, we could maybe move for deferral on this. And then when Aaron comes back next month, we can go ahead and move forward with that. So you can have some more information and she can highlight some of the work that she did.
Counselor Benton, did you want to go with a deferral, or what would you prefer? Being it's in your district and your neighborhoods.
Yeah, I mean, the oral reporting is all great, but as pointed out by Ms. McKnight and others, the report itself, the EC itself, is fundamentally flawed and inaccurate, in my opinion. And I'd rather send it back and ask that it be redone than for us to continue. I mean, we can get reports. These oral reports are okay, and we appreciate what people are doing. It sounds great what DC Brown has planned, but it's more. I think the complaint primarily from the neighborhood is the inaccuracies in the report. And they're not saying that the city hasn't done anything, although I make it sound that way. But they're not saying that. They're just saying that the report is inaccurate. And I agree. So I was planning, Madam Chair, to, you've already moved it for a receipt be noted. I'd be more inclined to send this to the full council with a recommendation of not be received, and then ask that the administration, of course, in the meantime, they could withdraw this if they wish, but my understanding is also that this basic format and the basic structure of this report of the CC is unchanged from over a year ago, or maybe even more. And the deficiencies within it have been pointed out repeatedly by the neighborhood. So in a way, I'd rather ask the administration to, and maybe if we just move this to full council, they'll have the opportunity to do that, to withdraw it and rewrite it.
And Mr. Padilla?
Madam Chair and Councilor Benton, we could do it either way. I mean, a deferral, and then we would have a conversation with you to see if we should withdraw the EC and then work on the report and send another one down. But moving without recommendation to the full council, we'll still have that conversation. Or if you defer it here, we can have that conversation. And if we wanted to withdraw it, then we can withdraw it at the full council at that time. So whatever the will of council is.
Madam Chair, if I may, I'm willing to defer it for that purpose. Or excuse me, I'm willing to send it to full council without recommendation for that purpose. I don't think it serves us well to continue to hear it in committee. We need to kind of cut to the chase and figure out what we're going to do next. So that'll give us that opportunity. So if you'd be willing to amend your motion, Madam Chair, I would second that, to just move without recommendation unless anyone else wants to speak.
Well, I'm willing to change my motion, but it's receipt be noted. Do we have something that's no receipt be noted?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I may, and I appreciate that it's a little bit confusing sometimes because the receipt be noted motion does suggest something affirmative relative to the bill, but it simply just means that you have received it, which you have. You may not necessarily think that it's complete, or that you like what's in it, or that it's stated correctly, or that it's missing things. But the point was to report in response to the resolution that passed before. And so by voting to receive it, you're not sanctioning anything that's within the report. It's simply before you. The analogy I gave earlier was that I don't like to get bad news a lot of times, but when I get it, I have to receive it, even if I don't necessarily like it. And so that's sort of what this motion is for the committee. You can send it to council without recommendation, but at that time you'll be confronted with the question to receive it at that time, unless it's withdrawn and resubmitted, in which case you might get something before you that you would prefer to receive instead of this.
So Mr. Melendrez, and I see you, Councilor Borrego, too. I'm just going to ask a clarifying question for that real fast. But so we could do the receipt be noted and then make sure to pull it off of the consent agenda when it goes to full council for further discussion, correct?
Madam Chair, you could do that. You could defer it. You could do the receipt be noted now. You could even move it without recommendation of receipt and then make that decision later. I just wanted to clarify what the effect of the receipt vote is. It's simply that you've got it.
Thank you for making that clear as mud. And just teasing. Councilor Borrego and then Councilor Benton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councilor, it seems like there's one individual that was mentioned earlier, Councilor Benton, who has a key component that's not part of this discussion. And maybe that person has some information that they could offer up. I don't know. Since I haven't been involved directly, that whole piece about whether or not the neighborhood has been involved or not. That's a real question in my mind. And however we decide to move forward on it, whether it be receipt and move it forward to council, or I would prefer not saying receipt noted because I think we're not, if we say receipt noted, then we're receiving it. And I'm not sure that we're ready to receive it. So moving it forward to full council without a recommendation would be my preference, or a deferral. So I just thought I'd offer that thought.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Benton, and then I did see that Director Simon is available if we want to hear from him.
Thank you, Madam President, or Madam Chair. Yeah, I wanted to clarify with Mr. Melendres. And I think sending it to the council without recommendation would be my preferred motion at this point. But Chris, I distinctly remember in the past that, here's the problem when you get a guy like me who's been around too long. But I do remember motions at full council where it said receipt not be noted or something like that. It was a response. It was a way of responding and saying, we know this was sent. So but I thought that there was and we know that we can't amend an EC. That's a communication from the executive. So I understood that, but I do recall that specifically having been done in the past.
Madam Chair, Councilor Benton, I think I recall that as well, that sounds familiar, that probably has happened in the past. I think, the point I was trying to make is that the resolution called for certain actions to be taken. This is the report of those actions, and whether the report is complete or not, your vote of receiving it doesn't sanction anything within it. The council rules do not contemplate a vote of receipt not be noted. And so to the extent that's happened in the past, it's probably harmless relative to the process, but it's not what's contemplated by the rules. And simply receiving it, you're informed as to what the administration has done or is proposing or how it's responded to that resolution. And so whether it's complete or not, sort of the loop has been closed at this point in the sense that you've been informed. Now, more work may need to be done, but even if you receive it with instruction or something else, it's not particularly significant. The motion is not, that is.
Thank you, Mr. Melendres. So I think I know how I'm going to change my motion, but for the sake of fairness and the fact that he took time to get on, I saw Director Simon is available, and if he would like to give his opinion and background of the involvement on this, then he is welcome to.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I don't know how much I can add to this. I think first of all, we've participated at every step of the way with community members in meetings, conversations, one-on-ones. I'm very open and accessible to the Wells Park community, and I think that part of it, I have no doubt that we've been in good communication. We take a lot of input, and they have the benefit of kind of knowing what Parks is up to in the area. I think our community engagement efforts surrounding the development of the new park in Wells Park have been exemplary, and we've gone above and beyond, to really do the best we could to engage the community in shaping a major project, that we hope will really benefit this community. And so that part's okay. Now, with respect to the rest of the other report, I apologize. I'm coming on a little bit late, and so your conversation about the neighborhood mitigation and other aspects surrounding Coronado, I think you wouldn't be surprised that I'm not satisfied with conditions there, but I don't think any of us are. But I'm happy to answer any questions there specifically about what we have done or other matter or other steps we're contemplating taking at Coronado.
Thank you, Director. So I would like to change my motion to motion without recommendation to full council. And I know Councilor Sena, you had seconded it before. Okay, thank you. She's seconding it again. Councilors, any other questions? Administration, any other comments or questions? All right. So Ms. Hinojos, if you'll please take a vote.
Counselor Borrego,
Yes.
Counselor Benton,
Yes.
Counselor Peña,
Yes.
Counselor Sena,
Yes.
Counselor Bassan.
Yes.
That passes unanimously.
Thank you. Agenda item B is EC 396, the mayor's recommendation of award to DB Production Services LLC for concert productions and backline services. I move approval. Counselor
Second,
Sena.
Counselor.
Thank you, Counselor Borrego. Counselor Sena with the second. Any discussion or questions, counselors? All right, Ms. Hinojos, if you'll please take a vote.
Counselor Borrego,
Yes.
Counselor Benton,
Yes.
Counselor Peña,
Yes.
Counselor Sena.
Yes.
Counselor Bassan.
Yes.
That passes unanimously.
Thank you. Agenda item C is EC 398, Mayor's recommendation of award to Copper Law Firm PC and Rita G. Siegel LLC for personal hearing officers. I move approval. Counselor Sena, thank you for your second. Any questions or comments? Thank you. Ms. Hinojos, please.
Counselor Borrego,
Yes.
Counselor Benton,
Yes.
Counselor Peña,
Yes.
Counselor Sena.
Yes.
Counselor Bassan.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Moving on to agenda item D, it's EC 400, approval of Springer Square Skylink Development Agreement with Zydeco 66 LLC. I move approval. Thank you, Counselor Benton with the second. Any questions or comments, counselors?
Madam Chair, we do have Mr. Richard Yates and Mr. Michael Pattengale from Zydeco 66. They did have a small presentation if you and the committee wanted to hear it and see it.
Yes, I think that would be a pleasure. Thank you.
Okay,
Mr. Yates, please feel free to begin and just let me know when you want me to go to the next slide.
okay, terrific. I assume I'm on video live. Thank you very much. I want to thank Chairwoman Bassan and Councilor Borrego and Councilor Peña and Councilor Sena for your service to Albuquerque. I know you expended a lot of time and effort, so thank you very much. My name is Richard Yates. I'm the president of Zydeco, and we've come up with a concept in response to the, we're making sure I'm on. I'm unmuted.
Yes, we can hear you, Mr.
You can
Yates.
hear me, okay.
You can't see it.
Well, I don't know, or maybe you want to see me. Geez, I put a tie on, so.
There we go.
Oh, we found the video, okay.
The left hand.
Yeah, I use the left-hand mouse, it throws every lot there. Okay. So thank you very much. Councilor Benton is represent our district where the Springer Square is. Thank you very much for attending. We responded to an RFP back in March of 2020, issued by the Metropolitan Redevelopment Authority. And I want to thank Karen Iverson and Jonathan Teeters for their efforts. We've been working on this for, well, it's gone on for more than a year. We feel that the project we're proposing is a great public-private partnership. And what I'll do is I'm an architect, so visuals help me a lot in terms of talking versus trying to use a cue card. So if you'll go to the next slide. This shows the site from an aerial view. You can see Broadway Central, where the proposed rail trail is, and the convention center parking areas highlighted in that little yellow outline. Springer Square is directly below that. That we've owned that building for over 30 years and been citizens of Albuquerque for a long time. We have wanted to, we leased this building up and have wanted to be able to see redevelopment occur in this. So we proposed and were selected as one of the participants in the RFPs that we're going to put $1 million into this neighborhood if you developed. We came a little different concept. You can see the red stripe there is we're proposing a pedestrian bridge to access the convention parking area. I have tenants that have parked in that parking structure before, and the only access that they have is either to walk down the viaduct of Martin Luther King or go under the railroad in the old Tierras viaduct, which is very dangerous. And we see creating, and really our proposal was to do a partnership, or we would build the bridge as a private bridge, allow public access to that, and then we would take our Springer Square area, the existing parking. Why don't we go to the next slide? And something I didn't note in that back one was there's just a sea of parking. And really, albeit the east side of downtown is part of downtown, but it's not dense. It's really a suburban solution. And the city's, I think, wisely has put in, changed the zoning where there's no parking requirements. And we would like to be able to move forward with some development in this area. What we see is the bridge, pedestrian bridge coming across. Obviously, it's got to clear the railroad. The turquoise are future elevators to go into the parking structure so people can easily access our bridge and then come across. There'll be two types of people. There'll be, we see tenants from our office and the adjoining office and probably the neighborhood accessing the parking and utilizing that day parking. And then we also see the rail trail, which is the tan stripe that's shown there. So you can come across the bridge. You can either choose to go down the stairs, which will have some water features to make it sort of fascinating and interesting. And then when you land down in the plaza, you'll we'll be putting foliage and activate this area as a public space, which is really the neighborhood has very little of that. Go to the next slide. This shows the bridge from the parking structure looking back at Springer Square. We are granting a 10-foot easement. You can see the old Springer Square, which was dock. Square was built as a warehouse at the time, and the trains would drop paper off. It was built in 1924, and we're going to grant an easement under that existing, what I call a portal or arcade, and another 10 feet to allow the rail trail to expand from 10 feet to 20 feet. And then we'll be building, the yellow wall is really demarks where the plaza is so that we can shut that plaza at the evening. The stairs are public and will be open 24 hours. There'll also be two elevators, one that accesses the plaza and the other one that accesses the rail trail. A lot of our designs have worked around many of the concerns that Karen and Jonathan wanted. They really see this project being the for sort of first project to step forward and participate in the concept of the rail trail that's going to be an east-west, north-south link in the downtown area. Next slide. So this shows just a quick concept of what the plaza, if it's activated. We hope to build a restaurant in this in the future. And why don't we jump to the next slide? And this shows potential. So really, the Metropolitan Redevelopment Agency, their goal is to see construction occur, density occur, and hopefully to see pedestrian activity. So on our tracks that we own, track A and track B, part of our contract in terms of working with the city, and the city's contributing $1 million into the bridge. We see our first phase one of the bridge in the plaza costing about a total of $6 million. At that point, we would have to, I think that we'd have to pay back the city $500,000 if we don't build 140 units, either hotels or residents. So we're really excited about this project. I appreciate the vote of approving this to go to the city council. We're ready to move forward. We hope to break ground and get the bridge put in place in about a year after we get contract signed. And we appreciate your time. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have. Oh, and one of those side note is at the end of the parking structure, you can see where TRS goes underneath. Well, that's right where that pedestrian bridge built. I don't know when they did that, but that was a long time ago. But those, it's really sort of a tunnel, and it's the least comfortable place. I don't know many people that really risk traversing that territory. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Yates. Mr. Pattengale, did you want to add anything?
Well, just to work on the CFO for Zydeco, we're just very excited about the project. We think it's a great public-private partnership. We think it helps increase walkability, really kicks off some great activity in East Downtown, and we would appreciate your vote in favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Iverson, did you have anything you wanted to add? No? Thank you for being here. Counselors, any questions or comments? Counselor Borrego?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to acknowledge that I just recently met Mr. Yates, and it was a pleasure to meet you. And also, I just wanted to thank you for your investment in this area. It's much needed to create these pedestrian connections, and your investment is definitely going to help, create a new sense of place for this area, which has struggled for many years to have that connection and that connectivity. So it's, as a former director of the redevelopment agency and watching this area grow, it's really very welcomed.
Thank you. We see a lot of success in it, and we are committed to Albuquerque, and we appreciate the partnership you're willing to form.
Counselor Pena and then Counselor Benton.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I just want to reiterate, I'm really excited about this project. Growing up here in the city of Albuquerque, we have the river as a natural boundary, and it really, unfortunately sometimes creates kind of a division. And then we have the rail tracks, and it's really interesting because when I was young, they didn't have the Guadalupe Bridge or the other one that goes, I don't know the name of the other one, and we created it as a way to kind of get across, and by doing so we created this barrier, and I think really igniting this and putting it back into use. And I remember being more part of the rail yards, being young, because we'd have to cross and walk across, and you kind of engage. And so I really appreciate the investment. I look forward to the connection that this is going to make in the city, and then with all the other ideas going up and down the rail, I'm just excited about the potential for Albuquerque.
Thank you. Counselor Benton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And yeah, just a reminder for anybody who doesn't know, Mr. Yates and Zydeco are coming off another successful redevelopment project in Albuquerque. That was the La Esquina, the corner of 4th and Cole. Really nice project. If you haven't been there, the neighborhood has their own incubator kind of space and on the ground floor, and doing a lot of good work. And Mr. Yates has been a good partner in all of that. So we appreciate that. And as Councilor Pena said, I mean, we're opening up the seam, I guess, between downtown and east of downtown. I mean, we cleaned up the foreboding tunnel at Central, but that's still reasonably foreboding. It's just hard for us to keep it clean. But we are also, in addition to this, going to be opening up Marquette Street itself as an actual low-speed local street rail crossing. So we're going to really break down that barrier that was created when the overpasses were put in and the fences were put up.
Thank you. Councilor Borrego. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Yates, if you wanted to reply.
No, I was just agreeing with, I think.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Borrego? Counselor, you're on mute.
Thank you. Thank you, Counselor. I was just going to mention, and maybe Counselor Benton remembers this, but we tried to do some some connections over the railroads in the past. And I think Fabrizio Bertoletti was the one that was responsible at that time for trying to get the air rights, over the railroad tracks. And so it's just really a welcome sight to see that. And I called earlier today, I called Mr. Rael to ask him about the air rights, because that was one of the memories that I had, Counselor Benton, was, we ran into some problems because we were trying to make a connection to the convention center at the time. And so it's just, when you said we're breaking down the barriers, it just really, it sparked that memory in my head of when we ran into those issues, and how this is really a welcome sight. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Counselors, anything further? Missy Nohos, if you will please take a vote. Missy Nohos, are you there to please take a vote?
I'm sorry, I'm having technical difficulties. Counselor Borrego,
Yes.
Counselor Benton,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Sena,
Yes.
Counselor Bassan.
Yes.
That passes unanimously.
Thank you. We will now
Thank you
move
very
on to
much.
agenda. Thank you so much. Thank you for being with us, Mr. Yates.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend
Thank you.
You as well.
when it shows up.
I was going to say, it's going to be a long week to get to the weekend.
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Moving on to agenda item E, it's EC 401, Mayor's recommendation of award for rental car concessions at Albuquerque International Sunport. I move approval. Thank you, Counselor Sena. With a second, any questions or comments, counselors? Missy Nohos, if you'll please take a vote.
Counselor Borrego,
Yes.
Counselor Benton,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Sena,
Yes.
Counselor Bassan.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Moving on to agenda item F, EC 402, Revenue and Expense Report for third quarter fiscal year 2021. I move a receipt be noted. Counselor Borrego, thank you for the second. Any questions or comments? Missy Nohos?
Counselor Borrego,
Yes.
Counselor Benton,
Yes.
Counselor Pena.
Yes.
Thank you, Counselor Sena,
Yes.
Counselor Bassan.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Thank you. We'll move on to agenda item G, EC 404, approval of Nuevo Atrisco Commercial Development and Disposition Agreement with Nuevo Atrisco LLC. I move approval. Thank you, counselors. I see Counselor Borrego, Counselor Sena with a second. Any comments or questions? Okay, missing. Oh, Counselor Sena, do you have a question?
More of a comment, Madam Chair. I'm just really grateful that this is proceeding forward. I wanted to thank Mr. Rael, who met with me pretty often to talk about some of the adjustments that we wanted to see, and also for Mr. Maestas for also making those adjustments and really working with us and community to really see this through. This was a vision of Councilor Sanchez for 15 years, and I'm just glad it's finally coming down the pipeline. It's not just a vision and dream of Councilor Sanchez, but of the community when he first had his charrette, as Elaine always mentions to me. And I'm just so glad that this is finally coming to fruition and that this agreement is now before us. So I'm looking forward to this project and what it can mean for our communities and the whole neighborhood, especially along Central. So thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Pena?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say the same thing. I'm just really excited that, this is really coming to fruition. It's been such a long time in the works. The community Swan at the time in West Central approached Councilor Sanchez and really wanted to purchase that property that was a wrecking yard, and the community went out and actually advocated for the dollars to purchase the land. And then after that, we approached Councilor Sanchez about doing a charrette. And again, like Councilor Sena said, it's 15 years later, but it is happening. So we're real grateful. So thank you.
Counselor Borrego?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a really, really spectacular day to see this come to fruition. And I know that if Councilor Sanchez was here, he would be just probably overjoyed to see this actually moving forward. When we first initiated the master plan for this entire corner, I was the redevelopment director for the redevelopment agency. And so I was happy to be able to work with Councilor Sanchez and Councilor Pena. The city actually donated the land for this master plan. And then we went into public-private partnerships. We brought in the transit center. We brought in the library. And then, the community charrette process, which occurred back then, had a vision for retail and mixed-use apartments, and the mixed use is already built if you drive in that area now and you see it. But this is like the next step in that commercial vision that they had in that charrette process. And it'd be kind of fun to pull out some of those old renderings, because the community really had a very clear vision for how they wanted to see this area develop. And so, it's heartwarming. It's unfortunate that Councilor Sanchez isn't here to see it, but hopefully he's watching from above, right? So thank you guys for moving this forward.
Thank you, counselors. Ms. Hinojos, if you will please take a vote.
Councilor Borrego,
Yes.
Councilor Benton,
Yes.
Councilor Pena,
Yes.
Councilor Sena,
Yes.
Councilor Bassan.
Yes.
It passes unanimously.
Thank you. Agenda item H is EC 405 Early Head Start Quarterly Report for April, May, and June 2021. I move a receipt be noted. Thank you, Councilor Sena. Any questions or comments, counselors? Ms. Hinojos, if you'll take a vote, please.
Councilor Borrego,
Yes.
Councilor Benton,
Yes.
Councilor Pena,
Yes.
Councilor Sena,
Yes.
Councilor Bassan.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item I, EC 407, Mayor's recommendation of award to C&S companies for aviation sustainability consultation services. I move approval. Thank you, Councilor Sena. Councilor Benton with a second. Any questions or comments? Ms. Hinojos?
Councilor Borrego,
Yes.
Councilor Benton,
Yes.
Councilor Pena,
Yes.
Councilor Sena,
Yes.
Councilor Bassan.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Moving on to agenda item J, OC 39 is recommendation of award for on-call planning services for City Council. I move approval. Councilor Borrego with a second. Thank you. Councilors, any questions or comments? Ms. Hinojos, if you'll please take a vote.
Councilor Borrego,
Yes.
Councilor Benton,
Yes.
Councilor Pena,
Yes.
Councilor Sena,
Yes.
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
passes unanimously.
Agenda item K is sponsored by Counselor Gibson and is O68, amending sections 4-8-8 and 4-8-13 of the City of Albuquerque Hospitality Fee Ordinance. I move a do pass.
Madam Chair, this is Isaac in the conference room. Actually, I think on this one, we're requesting a deferral. Oh, wait, no, I apologize. Wrong one. I apologize. Sorry about that.
Thank you. On the next one, I think we're going to do that, but okay, Counselor Benton, thank you with the second. And any questions or comments, counselors? Ms. Hinojos, if you'll please take a vote.
Counselor Borrego,
Yes.
Counselor Benton,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Sena,
Yes.
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
passes unanimously.
Moving on to agenda item L, O69, enacting the Albuquerque Automated Speed Enforcement Ordinance to monitor the speed of travel and enforce the speed limit through city speed enforcement camera or through speed enforcement cameras. I would like to move a deferral to August 23rd. Counselor Sena, Counselor Pena with a second. Thank you. Any questions or comments, counselors? Ms. Hinojos, please.
Counselor Borrego,
Yes.
Counselor Benton,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
thank you, Counselor Sena.
Yes.
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
unanimously.
Agenda item M is also sponsored by Counselor Gibson. It's R183, approving the FY 2022 audit plan as submitted by the Accountability and Government Oversight Committee. I would like to move a do pass. Counselor Borrego with a second. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Ms. Hinojos, if you will, please.
Counselor Borrego,
Yes.
Counselor Benton,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Sena,
Yes.
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
that passes unanimously.
Thank you. The next agenda item is N, and I will pass this on to Counselor Pena, who I hope had a glass of water before reading this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is R21-184, approving the application and petition of Success Land Holdings LLC and Heritage Trails Development LLC for the formation of the Aspire Public Improvement District pursuant to the Public Improvement District Act 1978. I wouldn't read all those numbers, and city ordinance enactments, making findings in connection with the application and petition and supporting documentation, requesting the approval of the formation of the district, determining the real property to be included within the district and the purposes for which the district is being formed, approving the general plan, feasibility study, rate method, or apportionment and a manner of collection of a special levy to be imposed upon real property within the district, and approving a development agreement for the district, establishing parameters for the issuance of a special levy bonds, authorizing the district to issue subordinate obligations, providing for governance of the district, providing that the bonds or other obligations of the district shall not be obligations of the city, waiving and canceling certain requirements to the formation of a public improvement district, ratifying certain actions heretofore taken, repealing all actions inconsistent with this formation resolution, and directing the mailing of a notice of adoption of the formation resolution by the city clerk and taking related action. I move a do pass.
Thank you. I see Counselor Borrego with a second. I don't know if there's even more. No, I'm just teasing. I do know.
Counselor, I was just going to ask her to repeat that. I was just kidding.
Counselors, any questions or comments? All right, Ms. Hinojos, if you will please take a vote.
Counselor Borrego,
Yes.
Counselor Benton,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Sena,
Yes.
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
that passes unanimously.
All right. Agenda item O is Counselor Benton's. Would you care to go ahead with that, Counselor Benton?
Sure, thank you, Madam Chair. R21-185 is approving and authorizing the acceptance of grant funds from the New Mexico State Highway and Transportation Department and providing an appropriation to the Parks and Rec Department of Albuquerque in this fiscal year of 2022. I move approval.
All right, Counselor Pena gave you a second. Counselors, any questions or comments? Oh, I said Pena, it's Senna. Sorry. I'm still thinking of Pena and her last one. Counselor Senna with the second, thank you. Any questions or comments, counselors? Miss Hinojos, if you will, please.
Counselor Borrego,
Yes.
Counselor Benton,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Senna.
Yes.
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
passes unanimously.
Our final agenda item is P, R186, Counselor Senna.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move approving and authorizing the mayor to execute a one-time grant agreement with the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Early Head Start Program and providing an appropriation to the Department of Family and Community Services retroactively for the fiscal year 2021 and move it to pass.
Counselor Benton with the second. Any questions or comments, counselors? Miss Hinojos, if you will take a vote, please.
Counselor Borrego,
Yes.
Counselor Benton,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Senna.
Yes.
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
passes unanimously.
Thank you. Counselors, there being no further business, this FGO meeting is adjourned. Have a good night. Thank you all so much.